Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2. Tuesday edition. I do that all the time with the days of the week to start with
Thursday.
It does matter. I don't want it to be Tuesday. I'm
right.
good with
Yes.
Thursday. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Travis Brown, KBTX Sports in College Station, going to be with us coming up in 15 minutes to talk about Mike Elko's team as they get ready to invade Baton Rouge this weekend. And that's where I want to start. I'm going to play a little cause and effect here for you. A little cause and effect. I'll get to the effect. Let's start with the cause. The cause here would be LSU's starts offensively in games. They have not been good at all. You look at the Clemson game, you took the ball, went 36 yards, got 2 first downs, and punted. Louisiana Tech game, you got a first down, you went 11 yards, you threw a pick. The Florida game, you went 3 and out, 6 yards. Southeastern, 3 and out, 5 yards. Ole Miss, 3 and out, 4 yards. South Carolina, 3 and out, 5 yards. You finally got some points on the board against Vanderbilt. You got 3 first downs, you went 44 yards, you kicked a field goal. But your offensive starts have been putrid. There's no two ways about that. You've either gone 3 and out, gotten a couple of first downs, or punted or thrown an interception. It's been terrible. And you look at LSU in the first half, you averaged 9.3 points per game in the first half. So not just the first drive, until halftime, 9.3 points per game. That's 110th out of 136 teams in the FBS. It's very poor. Now, conversely, you look at Texas A&M. They're 12th in the country in first half scoring. They've gotten off 2 fast starts. If this happens, and this is the cause that I'm looking at, the cause would be LSU's opening drives have been bad. They've been bad on offense in the first half. A&M has been very good in first half scoring. If those 2 things happen, and that is the cause, what's the effect? And I believe the effect is a cranky football stadium. Cranky football stadium. And that is something LSU has to avoid in this game. Has to. You cannot, in this game, fall behind 10-0, fall behind 14-0, and then hope to come back on Texas A&M. Because not only is Texas A&M very good, not only are you struggling, but this town, this fan base in that stadium is going to get incredibly restless if it starts off very poorly. And this is an assumption. That is not an assumption. That I am confident in. I can't know because it hasn't happened yet, but I'm confident in saying that. I got enough LSU people in my ecosystem, whether that's at work, on Twitter, in my friend group, in my family, on message boards. Like, I got enough LSU in my world to know what this fan base feels like right now. It is cranky. It is angry. It is bordering on apathetic. It is disappointed. It is disheartened. It is toxic in this ecosystem right now. I know that to be true. And that will manifest itself if LSU falls behind. The other piece to this that I am speculating on, and I talked about it briefly yesterday, but I'm going to bring it to the forefront here. It would stun me if this wasn't the biggest Texas A&M turnout in Tiger Stadium since they joined the SEC. It would stun me. It's a quick drive from Houston. It's a quick drive from Beaumont. You can get here pretty quick from East Texas. Dallas, not that big a deal. You want to fly Dallas to New Orleans pretty quick. You can get here from East Texas and Texas A&M country really easily. And they are as fired up as they've been I mean, probably since last year when they did start with a loss to Notre Dame, but were unbeaten. They were the last unbeaten in SEC play, but they went on the road to South Carolina. That's a bit of a trek after they beat LSU. But they're as fired up at this point in the calendar as they've been since they entered the SEC. Manziel's team lost too early, got hot late. This is an A&M crowd that I think believes, because not only are they undefeated, not only are they in the top 3 in the country, but there's not a big bad wolf out there, especially in the SEC, that they've got to look at with a little bit of fear. I talked to you about their schedule moving forward in power rankings yesterday. They're not scared of LSU. They're not scared of Texas. Texas had to go to overtime with Kentucky. Texas got blown out by Florida. They're not scared of them. They're not scared of South Carolina, who hadn't won a league game. I don't think they're petrified of Missouri. Like, this is an A&M fan base that's confident. And whether you want to suggest that's reasonable or not, that's not really the debate. The debate is, the fact is that they are. And I think they're going to come. And if LSU gets off to a bad start, which they have made a habit of all year, that A&M section is going to get really loud. There's going to be real juice on that sideline, and it's going to feel bad in that stadium. It's a doomsday scenario. It's probably not something that LSU fans want to talk about, but I find it to be unavoidable. I did my 3 matchups to watch on LouisianaSports.net, which you can read up there right now. And one of the ones I put on the 3 matchups to watch was LSU versus the Tiger Stadium crowd. Now, on the flip side, I feel good about this too. LSU comes out, goes right down the field and gets a touchdown. You get a strip sack of Marcel Reed or a pick 6. All of a sudden, you're up 7-0. You're up 10-0. You're up 17-7. That stadium will bring juice. That's going to happen. But that would be LSU winning that matchup early and getting the crowd on its side. I think a lot of people are entering that stadium in a skeptical mood on Saturday night. LSU has to flip that early because, to use a cliche, it can get late early if they don't. Because it's just a product of how this town feels right now. And if you're going to the game, like, you're hearing me, and I think probably most of you agree. Like, there are some times when I've got a take that's not super optimistic for LSU, where I feel like a lot of people are like, he so tries to be neutral and he's so pessimistic. And I get that a lot on Twitter and wherever the case may be. I don't feel like the majority of fans are saying that about this take from me. I think the majority of fans feel the way that I'm expressing. And I think they'll put their purple and gold on, and I think they'll go into Tiger Stadium, barring a just bad rainstorm, which is possible, but barring that, and they'll sit there and say, okay, show me something. And if LSU shows something, I think that crowd will join the fight. And I think A&M could have their hands full. I've said this all year, except this week. Like, I trust that defense in that stadium. I've said it all year. Said it in August. Said it before Florida. Said it before South Carolina. And I'll give you that right now. But it's got a caveat now if they get off to a good start. LSU's got to bring some fight. And you're 110th in the FBS in first half scoring, and A&M is 12th. If those two things hold, that cause the effect, not going to be pretty. So it is important for LSU for the first time all year to go do something early. Maybe, just maybe, and this is one of the most amazing stats I've ever seen. LSU is apparently, I didn't check this, but 3 people tweeted it on Saturday. Apparently LSU's lost 11 coin tosses in a row. That's statistically rough. 11 in a row. We'll see what happens. Maybe they win for the first time in 12 and see what Brian Kelly does. I'd put the defense on the field for sure. But I'm a little concerned, candidly, about what the vibe is like in that stadium on Saturday night when Texas A&M showed up. Little concerned. LSU's got to win early in the game to get the crowd cooking. That's my feeling on Saturday night in Death Valley. You disagree? Tweet at me at HuntPalmer88. Put it up in the Bayou Ford chat there on YouTube. I want to remind you, my friends at Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Sean Sagrera started this as a labor of love, and it's turned into a business because y'all have been so awesome with supporting them because you love the beef. And they have some of the best beef in the country. top 1% nationwide. Every single cow on that farm is on a 3-year journey, genetically engineered and mated to produce some of the highest quality beef in the country. And then it's raised on grass, finished on grain, dry aged, 45 days. Then you've got some of the most flavorful, well-marbled, tender beef you can imagine. And it's right here, just outside Baton Rouge in Ethel. So if you're looking for a freezer full of beef for the winter months, want to get those steaks on the grill when it gets cold, want that ground beef at the ready when you're ready to make delicious burgers. My wife just loves the burgers that we've made from Sagrera Farms. Call Sean, 719-1723. You'll see the difference. It's a different way to buy your beef. You've probably done it one way your whole life. Try something different. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef, just outside of Baton Rouge. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right, when we come back, Travis Brown's going to join us. He covers the Texas A&M Aggies for local TV KBTX Sports in College Station. He's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That includes their new vehicles, which are phenomenal. That includes their certified pre-owned vehicles, which are phenomenal. And if I say luxury brand, which it is, don't immediately price yourself out. Just give it a shot. Go by and see them, Airline at Piku. Talk to one of the brand ambassadors. See what they're all about at Genesis. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. And if you're looking for a rental to go on that family vacation for Thanksgiving, to go on that family vacation for Christmas, don't want to put the miles on your vehicle, they've got rentals at Genesis of Baton Rouge. And you can use that opportunity to get behind the wheel of a Genesis, maybe for the first time, and see what that difference really feels like. They're on Airline at Piku, as I mentioned. Go by and see them, or you can start that shopping journey online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. The entire inventory is right there. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Luke Johnson talking Saints in 15 minutes. Saints and Bucks Sunday afternoon from the Dome. Saturday night in Death Valley, it'll be Texas A&M and LSU. Travis Brown always good enough to give us a little time here when the Aggies are coming to town. He covers those Aggies for KBTX Sports in the Brazos Valley. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Travis, thanks for the time. How are you?
Hey, anytime. Doing well.
Glad to hear it. I would imagine a lot of folks doing very well in Bryan College Station these days. What's the vibe like in Bryan College Station right now?
Yeah, I think I've got to lean back on that. It feels a little bit like cautious optimism for the A&M fans down here because everything has gone well. They're 7-0 for the first time since 1994. They're ranked number 3 for the first time since 1995. Things are clicking on both sides of the ball for the most part through some of these games. But as Aggie fans in recent history know, and people around college football, A&M kind of has a propensity in recent history to have a November swoon or not necessarily just get across the finish line on some of these seasons. And so I think most of the Aggies that I know of talking about aren't letting themselves just go crazy with what the season's gone, because I think they want to make sure they see it, that make sure that demon is exercised before they fully, get in the streets and celebrate.
What do you make of their ability to win shootouts against Notre Dame and Arkansas, as well as kind of a rock fight against Auburn?
Yeah, it's a really balanced team, and it's balanced on both sides of the ball. And the good thing about this A&M team is that when maybe one of the phases of the game hasn't necessarily had their best game, the other phase has been absolutely able to carry the game. Early in the season, the defense had some speed bumps. They didn't really struggle, just had some speed bumps, and the offense, especially the perimeter players, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, really carried the team to some victories early. And then through the middle of the season, it was the defense that really won and secured games. Then it goes back to Arkansas, which is a little more of a shootout type game. A&M had some trouble with Taylon Green back there at quarterback, and it was the offense again that was able to put enough points on the board to win it. So it is a very it's a team that plays with a lot of balance and a lot of complementary football, especially when that's been needed in games.
Let's talk about Marcel Reed. Tiger fans that saw him last year saw him lead a second-half comeback with completing 2 passes. He's a little bit more polished than that at this point, I would imagine. But what have you seen from him through a couple of months?
Yeah, he certainly is has improved the throwing. I mean, I think Mike Elko and Marcel would argue that the throwing has always been there, just wasn't necessarily what the game plan necessarily called for all the time last year. But he has certainly improved as a passer, and I would say that Colin Klein has done a really good job, A&M's offensive coordinator, of building an offense that really fits his strong suits. You know, last year it was Connor Wigden's team coming out of fall camp, and it was an offense that was built for him, who is a little bit more of a traditional pocket passer. I think this year you see a little bit more of the RPO game. You see a little bit more of the intermediate pass game, the bubble screen game, throws that can get Marcel into a rhythm. And then they're not afraid to take some shots. Marcel has been a little hit and miss on the deep ball this year, but it certainly has done enough to keep defenses honest and open up that short to intermediate passing game.
What stands out about Concepcion and Craver? Those 2 guys statistically have been awesome, but what does it look like on the field?
It's the speed. Mike Elko, when asked last year why the passing game wasn't quite there at times, and he said that the wide receivers weren't necessarily getting separation. These are 2 guys that went out in the portal and got speed. They've been really good at getting open, especially in that short to middle route running. And then Craver has this uncanny ability just to kind of slip out of tackles left and right. The highlight one was the spin move against Notre Dame, where he was able to somehow spin out of 2 tackles at the same time and score a 80-yard touchdown catch and run. They're just really, really athletic. And I think Marcel Reed has been good, but I think those guys have really helped him be good this year as well.
When you look at the Aggie defense, I want to talk about positives, but on the maybe concern side, they did get into track meets against Notre Dame and Arkansas. What gave them some trouble?
The running quarterback, Taylon Green. I mean, other than maybe Lenora Sellers, you're not going to see a quarterback quite like that, or really Marcel Reed. But even Marcel Reed is a lot smaller than Taylon Green. Just that combination of size and speed and the ability to throw the ball really well. He's kind of a unique in the SEC right now. I think having an extra blocker with him running the ball gave A&M some trouble. They've had some trouble this season at times with some misfits with the linebackers and some of the defensive backs that are stepping up to help with the run, and that has opened up some run game with some of the teams this year. But I honestly see some of the run game struggles A&M had last game as a matter of having that kind of running quarterback, being able to do what he was able to do against A&M when they were up in Arkansas. So I would not necessarily see that as I see that as maybe more of an anomaly than something to be concerned about moving forward.
Travis Brown is our guest, KBTX in Brazos Valley, covers the Texas A&M Aggies. The third down numbers on defense are unbelievable. What makes them so good on third down?
Mike Elko, that's like one of his strong suits, one of his favorite parts of the game is scheming up third down. He's talked about going back to when he was a coordinator at Bowling Green, how much he liked to study blocking alignments on the offensive or blocking assignments on the offensive side of the ball and, offensive play calling to understand how he can get a free runner in on a quarterback on third down without necessarily having to send more pass rushers than blockers to be able to defend the pass as well. And it's something he's just gotten really, really good at. They weren't necessarily able to open up the full third down playbook last year because they did have some struggles in the secondary, kind of getting reacquainted with Mike Elko's defense and having to think as opposed to react. But it's just a strong suit of Mike Elko's defense. And then the other part of that is they've been able to keep offenses back in their schedule in early downs to her that I believe their average yards to gain on third downs defensively is around 7 yards per third down, which makes it a down where they can really pin their ears back and go after the quarterback and bring some exotic looks. Hasn't been a whole lot of third and shorts. The 3 games before Arkansas, A&M allowed 2 third down conversions in like 32 tries. They allowed 4 against Arkansas, but that still is 5 in the last 4 games. So that's a pretty remarkable stretch they've gone through.
That is, you said it right. It's remarkable to be that consistent on third down. As far as the back end of the A&M defense, LSU's strength is probably at wide receiver on the offense, so there's not a lot to write home about offensively for the Tigers at this point. How are the corners and safeties and coverage for Texas A&M?
They've done a pretty good job this year. I think that's been aided a lot with how good the pass rush has been for the Aggies. They haven't necessarily needed to hold down their guys for a long period of times because guys like Cassius Howell, Albert Regis, Dayon Hayes have been getting in the backfield and affecting the quarterback, and that certainly helped the secondary. Vast improvement from last year where the defensive secondary was probably the weakest part of A&M's defense. They've been tested at times when teams have had success against A&M's defensive secondary, or really defense in total, is when they've played with some tempo. Florida did it a couple of drives, and that's when they had some success. Mississippi State did it a little bit against A&M, and they had some success. So I think playing with tempo is something that has been able to affect them. But, I mean, overall, the numbers prove out that they've been a really solid and improved unit. Even when teams have been able to move the ball against A&M, their fourth down defense numbers aren't necessarily great, but they forced a lot of field goals. Even when teams have been able to get first and goal, A&M's defense has been able to lock down and force field goals instead of touchdowns. And I think that's been a huge part of why they've been able to be successful, even when they've been given up some yards against opponents who have gotten down inside the 20, inside the 10. A&M's been really salty.
And LSU can't score inside the 20 or the 10, so that's another tough matchup for the Tigers at this point. Travis, we appreciate some time. Safe travels over to Baton Rouge, and enjoy the football on Saturday night.
You got it. Anytime, guys.
Travis Brown over there in the Brazos Valley covering the Aggies for KBTX Sports. It's tough when you look at the injury report, you look at the stats, and you look at the records to kind of find multiple spots where LSU may have an advantage. I like LSU's corners against those great Texas A&M wide receivers to certainly hold their own. But beyond that, it gets a little tougher. We'll see what LSU can do against the running game and Le'Veon Moss. And you look at third down numbers, you look at red zone numbers, like A&M's defense looks like it's going to be a really tough matchup for LSU. We'll just have to see. As I said in the first segment of the hour, if LSU can get off to a good start, I think the stadium kind of gets into it, and I think you got a real good chance, but you're going to have to get off to a good start in this game against Texas A&M. So thanks to Travis for giving us a little bit of time. I am going to step out. I'm going to head over to a charity event this afternoon that I'm going to be participating in. So the show must go on. Matt Musso is going to jump in and interview Luke Johnson talking Saints. Luke's been at practice the last couple of days, so they'll get a look at Saints and Buccaneers. And then, of course, there'll be some take it or leave it. I'll be back tomorrow for a Football Friday. Very much looking forward to that. But Musso is going to jump in, talk a little bit of Saints when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, welcome back in. Hunt Palmer Show here on a Thursday. Hunt had to jet out a little early today, so Musso here for you and carry you the rest of the way. Saints and Bucks in the Dome, 3:05 on Sunday afternoon. Boy, there's a lot of storylines here, and most of it kind of starts with the injury report for both teams. Luke Johnson, of course, covers New Orleans because it covers the New Orleans Saints, I should say, for the New Orleans Times-Picayune. He's good enough to join us here, as he does every week. Get him on Twitter, X, @ByLukeJohnson. Luke, we appreciate the time, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to have a little change-up as much as I love Hunt. I'm looking forward to seeing where you take this interview.
Yeah, we thought we'd just switch it up a little. Hunt's like, I had got a jet early. You want to come talk to Luke? I was like, I'll go talk to Luke. Luke's a good guy. Well, I'm going to start with the injury report, really, for both teams, but specifically for the New Orleans Saints, no Eric McCoy. That's fascinating to me, Luke, because I mean, you're developing a quarterback, and this is a situation Spencer Rattler and others found themselves in plenty last year, going into a game, young guy, no veteran in Eric McCoy there. What does this do for Spencer Rattler? How much extra does this now put on his plate now that McCoy's been lost for the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge, huge loss for this team. I mean, the good thing is they are able to plug a guy in Luke Fortner, who's going to start for the Saints this week. He's the one who they traded for from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's that trade where they sent Colin Saunders out to them to acquire him. He's at least somebody who's played a lot of NFL football. He's been a starting center in the league before. Like, it's valuable having a guy like that, in a break glass in case of emergency situation. But the fact is that Eric McCoy is he is just one of the NFL's best centers. Like, and not only is he a really good player, he is crucial to like what they do on game day with calling out protections and getting everybody in the right spot. He is probably their most important offensive player. And you don't hear that said about a center very often, but especially when you got a young quarterback. And like, the timing could not be worse on this, right? Like, it's literally anytime they lose him, it'd be bad timing, right? But then when you consider what they're facing this week, I mean, the Bucs are blitzing teams on 34% of their dropbacks. It's the sixth highest rate in the NFL. The Saints really struggled against the blitz last week for the first time all season. Spencer Rattler threw 2 picks against the blitz. He was sacked 2 times. That's just an 8 dropbacks. So, I mean, that's going to be a weak spot that Todd Bowles is certainly drawing up some creative pressures this week, trying to confuse Fortner, confuse Rattler, and put that defense in really advantageous situations. So it's really a shame for the Saints and for McCoy, who's really just one of the best dudes in the locker room. I mean, he's so well loved in that building. And when you're a Saints team that's trying to evaluate the quarterback position, and it's like a huge, huge part of your season, not having McCoy in there is just like a really devastating loss.
How much of the calls and protection changes and things of that nature now fall to Spencer Rattler because of this?
I don't think all of them. Without it being inside the building and knowing exactly how they're planning to overcome it, I don't think they're going to put it all on his plate. If the fact of the matter is that he doesn't quite even have a full season under his belt as a starter yet. So especially for a game like this, I mean, they are going to be. If Fortner is a guy with experience, with experience as center, like they're going to be relying on their offensive line to make checks and identifications and all that stuff that goes into the protection plan. But I mean, some of it definitely is going to go to Rattler, right? He's going to have to step up. And I think if he proves himself, able in those scenarios, they can keep adding more and more to his plate as the season goes on. But still, I mean, like it's a huge loss. It's hard to overstate how big a loss it is.
While we're on the topic of Spencer Rattler, I would love a thought on where you are with the Rattler Tyler Shuck deal. I mean, Rattler been awesome at protecting the football, laid a bit of an egg against Chicago a week ago. You're now 7 games into this. I mean, at what point do you start to wonder, okay, what do you have in the guy you drafted 40th overall in Tyler Shuck?
Yeah, I mean, the Saints are in this really interesting, unique situation, right? Because they have a guy who's playing pretty well in Spencer Rattler. Like, I think there is a world where he's just the guy for them, next year. Like, he's played well enough to be that. But they're also they've won 1 game this year. They're on track to have probably a top 5 pick next year. If there is like literally any, and this is just me, right? This is just my viewpoint on this. But if there's literally any seed of doubt in their mind about Spencer Rattler, and there probably should be, considering he's 1-12 as a starter, even if the stuff around him isn't great. Like, that's still a bad mark on his resume. If there's any doubt in their mind whatsoever, they need to get a look at Tyler Shuck. They need to see what he can do, and it can't just be like a 2-game sample size. Like, it has to be a significant stretch of the season where they're getting a look at him. Because if they're picking number 3 overall next year, like, they're going to have to decide whether to take a quarterback. And it's much harder to do that if you got this guy that you picked 40th overall who you never saw, or you saw in too small of a sample size to get a real good idea of what he can do. So I mean, to me, unless Spencer just like really turns it on over these next 2 weeks, and they come up with these surprising wins against the Bucks and the Rams, which is like not impossible,
Yeah,
but doubtful, right? Like I think at that point, after these next 2 weeks, they'll be through 9 games. They'll still have effectively half the season right in a 17-game schedule. That's enough time for you to at least get a sense of what Tyler Shuck is. And Shuck could be a complete disaster, and then you just know, or Shuck could be, he could show all the signs that you're seeing from Spencer and a little bit more. You just you don't know what it is until you see him on the field. So I think if these next 2 weeks kind of go as we think they're going to go against 2 really good football teams, I think that's the opportunity right there to put Shuck in.
Talking with Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for New Orleans Advocate, Times-Picayune. You get him on Twitter, X, @ByLukeJohnson. Luke, the Saints will also be without Kendre Miller for the rest of the year. This was just devastating. I mean, Miller, his injury history in New Orleans, well documented. He was finally kind of gaining traction, and then, I mean, he gets within 10 feet of Dennis Allen, and he's out for the year. I'm starting to think Allen's got some type of voodoo there, so it's just devastating. But it's going to open the door for Devin Neal, who they were really high on after taking him in the 6th round. He dealt with injuries of his own throughout training camp. What is a fair expectation for Devin Neal in this offense come Sunday?
I don't think they should be high. I think, especially just considering the offense they're going up against. I mean, even if the Bucs have a ton of injuries right now, I mean, they've been one of the NFL's better offenses with Baker Mayfield at the helm. They're going to have to score points. I'm having a hard time seeing like Devin Neal slide into like the exact same workload that Kendre Miller had right away. I think it's probably going to be a heavy workload of Alvin Kamara. Obviously I could be wrong here, but it seems like that's what we're kind of tracking toward. Where the guy's only got like 3 carries this season. I think they need to see a little bit more from him before they're like, yeah, you're going to get 8, 9, 10 carries in this game. But I do like the stuff that I've seen. I think he's been, he had that great pass block rep the other day against the Bears, where he came from the other side of the formation to pick up a blitzing safety that nobody saw. There are some things that he does really well. I think the book is still a little bit out on him as a runner in the NFL, even though he's been very successful in college. We got to see it. I mean, we didn't see it really in training camp or preseason because of that injury you mentioned. We haven't seen it in the regular season because he's been 3rd on the depth chart. He's either been inactive or not very much part of the game plan. So, I think the book is still out on that. I'm intrigued, though. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more of him, and I think his role will just get bigger as the season progresses.
Talking with Luke Johnson. Luke, where are you on Blake Grupe?
Man, this is so tough for me because, all I saw, I think he closed the season really strong last year, and then we saw that carry over in training camp, and the guy just looked just perfect, right? Like, weirdly, like a lot of people were like, yeah, Blake Grupe's the MVP because like everything he kicked was like dead center right in the middle of the uprights, and then it just went away during the regular season. And like I could chalk it up like 3-4 games. You're like, okay, like kickers go through slumps. We've seen really good kickers do this. I remember watching Justin Tucker at like in his prime miss an extra point that won the Saints a game. I was willing to let it go for, but we're like halfway through the season now, and it's like continued game after game after game, and that's when you really start to wonder, And I like at this stage, even though like I felt so confident about him going into the season, you're running out of reasons to think he's going to pull himself out of it. That one last week, I mean, like in normal conditions, you can just like wipe that one off the board because it was a 54-yard field goal and kind of bad conditions, but like when you add that one up to the entire body of work this season, it's just like, well, that's just another data point that says he's not a very good kicker. So like, unless he like really turns it around this week, next week, like if he's got another miss or 2, like you gotta make a move there because it's just like you can't just like sit here and stand by and hope he figures it out, especially for this team that is every point is going to really matter for this team. So it's a tough situation to be in because, like, I do think he's a promising young kicker, but, like, you can only live with the struggles for so long.
It's certainly interesting because it's one of the times now. I mean, Kellen Moore's first year, we can kind of watch him as a first time head coach and see kind of how he handles a certain situation. I mean, in past regimes in New Orleans, Sean Payton specifically, Blake Grupe's probably already looking for another job. But it's
and if the Saints were any good, he'd probably already be gone. Like they can let people have longer leashes here because of the situation they're in as a franchise. You can let somebody figure it out a little bit. But they're probably at the breaking point,
Yeah, that's a very good point. The record and circumstances absolutely factor into it. That is a very, very good point and well taken. A couple more for you, Luke, and I'll let you go. A couple on the game. Okay, the Bucs, talk about injury reports. They got 17 guys on that thing. Obviously, Mike Evans is out for the season. Todd Bowles yesterday on Wednesday says no Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving, no Hassan Reddick. Of all the litany of injuries, which ones do you think impact the game most on Sunday?
Well, I mean, for them, I would say Bucky Irving and Bucky Irving, right? I think he's like the receivers. It just feels like with Tampa, they can just plug anybody in there. I mean, it's obviously not true. Like Emeka Egbuka is really good, but Tez Johnson's just coming out of nowhere to catch touchdown passes for him. It just seems like, okay, well, the scheme's really good, the quarterback's really good, you can kind of get away with it. So like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are big name players, but like they've been able to sustain that without him. The Bucky Irving thing, like he's a really good back and he does a lot of stuff for him, like not only as a runner but as a receiver. But then I remember the last year, I mean, Sean Tucker probably had more yards against the Saints last year than he has had in the rest of his games in his career. So like I just, at this stage, like the Bucs are 5-2. They've had like this long injury list all year. They're missing several pieces on their starting offensive line, guys who are already on season-ending injured reserve. Tristan Wirfs has only played for a couple games, and it hasn't mattered. So, like, if I'm looking at this long injury list, it's still hard to see a point where this is really influencing me to think about this game differently. Like, unless it was Baker Mayfield who was dealing with something, it's just like they've been overcome a lot of this stuff all year. I mean, they had their starting center playing left tackle for him for like the first 4 weeks of the year, and it didn't matter. So like I think the Irving one is probably the most intriguing, like in terms of this matchup. He's really good. The Saints obviously are coming off a bad game as a run defense, but like it just feels like they can plug anybody in there and it'd be okay.
Certainly a good bounce back opportunity, hopefully, for the New Orleans Saints at home. It's where their only win this season has come, and that's against the New York Giants. Luke Johnson, he'll be there, and then he'll be back with us here on Thursday on the Hunt Palmer Show to recap all of it. Get him on Twitter, X, @ByLukeJohnson. Covers the Saints for the New Orleans Advocate Times-Picayune. Luke, we appreciate the time, man. Thank you.
My pleasure, buddy. Talk to you later.
Absolutely. Again, that is Luke Johnson. Musso in for Hunt here as we wrap up a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you're just jumping on, Hunt just had to jet out a little bit early today, and I said, hey, you want to come do the last 30 minutes? I said, sure, absolutely. So we're going to hang out with you for one more segment. We'll do a little bit of Take It or Leave It to wrap up a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, wrapping up a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms. Musso taking you home here. Let's wrap it up with a little bit of Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
I always forget that Patrick from SpongeBob is in that opening. It gets me every time. What you got, Jordan?
What do I have? So let's start off with this one. Take it or leave it, Moose. Illegally rigging poker games with the mafia as an NBA coach.
I'm going to leave that.
Okay.
And this is actually what I'll say on that. If you're participating in an illegal underground poker game, you should probably just assume that it's rigged.
Yeah.
It's illegal, and it's underground.
Yeah.
I don't think you walk into a backroom poker game and just assume it's on the up and up. But, man, that was a wild story.
But also, you're an NBA coach.
Yeah.
What I get it. People be like, no money's enough money. But damn, when is enough money, man? I mean, what do you're putting your career up for? I mean, look, we talking about Chauncey Billups, obviously, but worse is Terry Rozier. So Terry Rozier got caught up today too, yeah. But he got caught up for $200,000.
Yeah.
That's how much he got paid on the back end for what he did in the game. $200,000.
Worse than anything with Rozier is the NBA cleared him in their investigation, and now dude just got arrested by the feds.
Yeah.
Tough scene all around for the association this morning.
Tough scene. I mean, the league is just think about this. I will say this. I might have been happy if it would have came out that Willie Green was in this too, if he was rapping this some type of way. But because I'm I'm thinking of as a Trailblazers fan, the season just starts yesterday and you lose your coach for the year.
Yeah.
Now.
Probably forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I said for the year, yes. He's gone forever.
I don't think he's going to coach in the NBA ever again, Jordan.
Yeah, he's gone forever. But, maybe if Willie Green was in there, I'd have been a little happy. But,
come on.
My heart goes to the Trailblazers fans. So, this is a good one. Sticking on the Pelicans.
Uh-oh.
Take it or leave it, Moose. Hunter Dickinson and Derek Queen versus Victor Wembanyama on Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to have to leave that one too. Jordan, I look, I hate the Spurs an awful lot. I don't like the Spurs at all.
Yeah.
But, the Pels last night, there's all the good vibes in the first half, and then the dreaded third quarter. It got them again. It's got them. It's got them throughout Willie Green's entire tenure. 41-22. You and I were talking about it at the break. You get outscored. It completely changes the game.
Silly Willie,
and you're 0-1, and it feels like the same old.
But also, I got to give Willie some credit. I do enjoy how much he watches the game as a spectator. I really do enjoy that. That's next level. Like, he's really good at just watching the game just like us. There's times where I'm calling the timeout, and he's not calling the timeout. So I got to give Willie his credit. But the reason why it's Hunter Dickinson and Derek Queen because Kevon Looney's already injured.
Yep.
Hurt his knee.
Yeah.
Yves Missi goes down last night with a sprained ankle, so he's day-to-day at the moment. Yeah. And that's your big man. And you have 7'5" demigod Victor Wembanyama coming to the blender on Friday, and your two only big men left are Hunter Dickinson and Derek Queen. Yeah.
Look, it's the home opener, though, Jordan. The atmosphere in the blender is going to be phenomenal.
It'll be, matter of fact, Jessie will be there. So Jessie, Cassie's sister, she will be there. She was like, "Is there anything you want me to get?" I'm like, "Look, man, maybe a picture of Wembanyama. I don't really know what to expect out at this point. Like, we're just hoping for the best." So that's it for take it or leave it, man. I just had to get that off my chest.
Oh man, Jordan's got us already back to the. I guess they never really left. Go to the blender to watch the big player on the opposition. That's going to wrap it up here for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Yeah, and just popped in here for the last half hour or so to fill in for Hunt as he had to jet out a little bit earlier. But thanks to Luke Johnson for hopping on. Great conversation there with Saints and Bucks. Obviously, take it or leave it there as well. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you to Jordan. Thank you to Cassie. Hunt will be back regularly scheduled 1 to 3 tomorrow here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Be here for that.
The Hunt Palmer Show.